Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. So I want to go through these couple of articles really quick. Now, quick disclaimer, I hijacked one of these articles from David Dubine from Adapt 2030, okay? He went over it pretty quickly because he goes over a whole bunch of articles in one short video. And I wanted to go through one of these articles through the whole thing with you guys instead of just a little snippet of it. All right, so I do recommend that any of you that are not subscribed to Adapt 2030, that you guys go over there and subscribe. I'll go ahead and leave a card with his channel on it so you guys can check him out, because he does a great job in reporting any food shortages that are going on or delays in crop planting and things that are going to affect our food supply, all right, for whatever reason it may be. Now, having mentioned Adapt 2030, I would also like to mention a couple of other channels that I follow. I follow the Ice Age Farmer over there, Christian. He does a great job reporting on crop losses and things like that. And then if you guys want to go to a channel that's a little bit wacky, but you know, it's a fun channel to watch, it would be the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, all right? And he does a great job too. Sometimes he gets a little wacky, but his message is pure, and I think it comes from a good heart. Okay, and also I do also visit the GSM channel every now and then, the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Every now and then they do a great job as well. All right, so it says here, crop planting delays reach historic levels, resulting in high levels of uncertainty for 2019. All right, and let's go ahead and read real quick. And I'm more interested in showing you guys some of the charts that they have here because they are very easy to follow, and it will give you a very good perspective as to where, as a nation, where we are at this point in the planting season, all right, for two of our major crops, which are corn and soybean. All right, now if you guys go over to Adapt 2030, I think it's his latest video or his second to last video. It shows the projected global, all right, the projected global food output for this year and the projected global consumption of food for this year. And I do believe that we are at a deficit. All right, we are at a projected deficit worldwide this year. Okay, so to me, what that means is that countries that normally export are probably going to export less, all right? And countries that more than likely import are more than likely going to try to import more, all right? Which is kind of a conundrum if you think about it, all right? Because if countries that normally export aren't going to export what they normally do, and countries that normally import, where are they going to get those extra imports? If they normally import and they're going to try to import more than what they normally import, where are they going to get it from? All right. And what does that mean to you and to me? It doesn't mean, in my opinion, it doesn't mean that there's going to be a food shortage for us. What that means to me is that the prices of food will go up substantially. I would venture to say that the prices of things would, man, I hate to say this, but you know, in our near future, and when I say near future, I'm saying like 6 months to a year, I say that the prices of most items are going to, you know, I would say go up 25-50% than what they are now. All right, because if the price of corn or soybean, which are two of the things that are used a lot in the things that we eat, if they double, then think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Almost everything that we eat today is a byproduct of corn and soybean, mainly corn. Almost everything that we eat has a byproduct in there of corn, either corn syrup, either starch. I mean, I don't know all of the things that corn is manufactured into, but I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of items that we consume on a regular basis that have corn products in them. All right, so let's read on. In many parts of the country, the weather isn't just cooperating for farmers. All across the Farm Belt record-breaking precipitation has been causing headaches for farmers with flooding of fields and excess soil moisture. As a result, tractors are getting stuck in the mud, fields are completely underwater, and Mother Nature is doing her very best to keep crops from getting put into the ground. On Tuesday, USDA released the latest crop progress report showing historic delays in corn and soybean plantings across the country. Many acres are or soon will be eligible for prevented planting payments through corn crop insurance policies. We are looking at the biggest event for grain and oilseed markets since the drought of 2012. The combination of record-breaking extreme weather alongside continued uncertainty has agricultural economists across the board scratching their heads trying to figure out how everything will shake out. At this point, the only thing for certain is that nothing is known with any degree of certainty. And here it says delay in planting. And this here is a pretty good chart to take a look at. Delays in planting. USDA's Tuesday release of the crop progress report shows historic delays in corn and soybean planting across the country. Looking at the 5-year average, typically at this point in the year, corn planting would be 90% complete. But this year, the farmers have only planted 58% of their intended acres. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it says here that farmers have planted 58% of their intended acres. Now, that doesn't guarantee that that 58% of the intended acres planted will produce an equal to or greater yield than it produced last year. And I've also heard of farmers doing something that's called wet planting, which means that they plant their crops in conditions that they know are too wet for the crop to survive, all right, or produce. And they do it anyways because they know that they have a certain cutoff date that if they don't plant their crops and their crops fail, they won't get that insurance payment. So it could be that some of them plant their crops knowing that the crop is going to fail, but if they don't plant it, then they can't take advantage of the insurance that they have on their crops. I hope that makes some kind of sense. This translates to nearly 39 million acres of corn still waiting to be planted, which is an astronomical number, especially at this point in the year. We talk about corn experiencing historic delays in planting, but to put that in perspective, it is helpful to look at some of the worst years in planting delays. Figure 1 shows 2019 progress of corn alongside the 5-year average and 1993 and 1995, which were the two years that are widely cited as being some of the most delayed in corn planting. So this chart right here is going to show the 1993 and 95 planting progress for corn, which were the two worst years cited for planting corn. All right, and it's also going to show the 5-year average and this year's average, the 2019. So take a look at this. Let me see if I can expand this on that way you guys can get a good picture of this. So if you look at 1993, it's in the blue, and this goes by weeks in the year. Okay. So we're in June, right? So let's say we're in June, so 5. So we're around week 20, or we're on week 21 right now. So here's where we're at right here. This is 2019, okay? In 1995, which is one of the worst years for planting progress for corn, all right? We were at about roughly 70% planted, okay? In 1993, which is like the second worst year for progress for planting corn, we were at a little over 80%, okay? The 5-year average is around 90%, okay? Now, we are at just above 50%. So taking that into consideration, this is the worst as far as how far they go back in record keeping, right? So this is the worst year for planting progress for corn, right? Here it says 2019 started out relatively in line with 1993 and 95, even performing better through week 18. However, in the past 3 weeks, this year's progress has fallen further and further behind, with the most recent week at 13% points behind the next worst year for corn planting. Some states are certainly hit worse than others, with South Dakota, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio being hit particularly hard for planting delays. Now take a look at this chart, ladies and gentlemen. What you're looking at here is any numbers that you see that are in any color other than blue. Well, let me put it this way. Any of these blue states that you see that are here, see, Texas, all of these states that are in blue, okay? Those states are actually above the average, okay? So those states are doing decent. They're doing pretty good. But look at all these other states, all right? These other states, that number that you see, like this one, -19, -12, -18, -13, -65, all right? -60, -63. All these other states that are in the negative, that's how much less they have produced this year than the average, than the 5-year average. All right. So there's a lot more states that are at a deficit than the 5-year average than states that are actually at a surplus from what the 5-year average yields. All right. And this here, I believe, is for corn. Yep, this one's for corn. All right. Now let's take a look at the soybeans. Soybeans are planted later than corn, but so far are showing a similar pattern, largely falling behind the 5-year average. The U.S. is only 29% complete on planting soybeans, while the 5-year average is 66%. So for soybeans, they're at less than half of what they normally are. As of this week, there are still 60 million acres of soybeans that farmers intended to plant that are not planted. And if you can take a look, this is a similar picture as the other one. There's only a few states that are colored in blue, which means that they have planted a little bit more than the 5-year average. But most of the states that plant the soybeans are in either red or orange, which means that they are at a deficit. All right. And look at this with -56, -58, -52. These states are getting hit really hard. All right. But look at all of these reds right here. Wow. All right. Some in the industry have argued that farmers are doing the math between prevented planting and current corn prices to see which option is more economical. So farmers are actually saying to themselves, well, how much can I get from insurance and how much can I get from this crop being harvested, whatever of it may be harvested? And they're using that as a tool to decide whether they are even going to plant or not. All right. They are looking at historical years of crop progress reports and extrapolating those results on this year's progress. But that may not apply here, as it may come down to whether or not farmers can even physically get out there and plant the crops. We are sitting on record floods, and many states in the Corn Belt are looking at record levels of topsoil measured at a surplus moisture level. There will need to be several days of sun, no rain, in order to get the fields close to where they need to be for those looking to plant in the next week to be able to do anything. But the current forecast does not seem to be cooperating. All right. And then right here it says, right now, weather is the primary driver of uncertainty in planting progress over the next few weeks. However, the political realm is doing its best to complete and add other layers of uncertainty around farmers' planting decisions. If Mother Nature cooperates, some farmers still have time to plant corn before they begin to lose a share of the crop insurance coverage. And here is the days left to plant corn before final planting date. I think this has to do with the final planting date where the corn can be covered by insurance. All right. And as you can see, a lot of these have run out of time. All right. And a lot of these are pretty much close to running out of time. So the best one I see here is 15 days before they run out of time to plant their corn where it could be covered by insurance. If this weather were occurring in a normal year, many farmers would take the prevented planting payments on their crop insurance policies, as for many farms, corn prices have not increased enough to push net returns from planting above net returns from prevented planting payments. What makes this year so challenging to predict is uncertainty surrounding two policy provisions, assuming, of course, Mother Nature even gives farmers a chance to plant. All right, and in its original announcement of another round in the market facilitation program, USDA said that payments would occur with a single county rate on crops that are planted in 2019. All right, we're going to go ahead and leave it at that with this article. I'm going to go ahead and leave it in the bottom of the description like I usually do whenever I leave the links to articles. All right, and then the second one here is pretty similar to that, but you can see a dreary photo here of a tractor with a looming storm in the background that's coming in. All right, and then let's see, what's the title of this one? 31 million corn acres unplanted, and it's pretty much the same figures that we went over already. And it says here 67%. Yes, that's the USDA's latest take on the 2019 corn planting space. Following the June 3rd crop progress report, there was a collective thought of disbelief throughout farm country. Is it really possible that only 67% of the nation's corn was planted by June 2nd? And it says here the trade expected 71%, and many analysts were encouraged by the weekend's weather break. But the survey data from 3,600 respondents submitted on Monday, June 3rd, fell slightly under the 70% mark. As of June 2nd, only 67% of the country's estimated 92.8 million corn acres have been planted. That means farmers have 31 million acres of corn still to plant. The 5-year average for this week of the growing season is 96% of corn planted. Wow, so the 5-year average for corn being planted by this time in the year is 96%, and so far we've only planted 67%. So, and this is the number of soybean acres left to plant, all right? Of corn and soybean acres left to plant, a little over 80 million. And it says here, on June, and this is a tweet, I guess. On June 2nd, U.S. farmers still had 82 million acres of corn and soybean to plant. That dwarfs second place at 54 million in 1995, and only 2 other years still had 40 plus million left on June 2nd. Wow, so this so far this year, according to this year is the third worst. No, it's the worst. Let's see, or not the worst, but the latest. All right, there's only been 2 other years where there have been more acres to plant on this date than this year. This says here, still, John Newton, an economist with the American Farm Bureau Federation, says progress must be made eventually. While crop progress is a subjective visual collection of data, Newton says the market has used the data for decades. How do folks out there take into consideration what's prevent planting, especially given that we're in the last planting period for many folks, if not all folks, on corn, and are getting closer to it on soybean, he says. I think it's a legitimate question, but at the end of the day, these are the numbers that we've been using for nearly 40 years. All right, so I'm going to leave it there, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and leave the links to these articles. But like I told you before, as a world, all right, we're going to have a deficit, all right? And that matters because we may have a little bit of a surplus from last year, but what if we have a deficit again next year, okay? And I consider that a caloric deficit, all right? And the reason I consider a caloric deficit is because even if we divert all of the corn and all of the food stuff that we use to create fuel, like I know we use a lot of corn to create ethanol, all right, which subsidizes the corn market, right? But we use a lot of corn. Even if we divert that corn to making food is still going to get more expensive, all right? Because now we have demand for corn in one area, all right, and we're shifting it to another area. So things are going to get more expensive across the board. All right. And I just pray for those countries that are net importers of these grains that are, very important, for everything that we eat and everything, pretty much everything that we do and eat on a regular basis. Because if they can barely afford them now, because they have to import them. And a lot of these countries that have a lot of large imports, for example, I read an article a while back that Africa this year is going to import like twice as much as they imported last year. Where they're going to get that from, all right? If a lot of countries are falling on a deficit as far as crop production goes, all right? So ladies and gentlemen, this is what I have to say. I'll keep blowing this horn, or I'll keep blowing this trumpet, however you want to call it, for as long as it takes. You need to prepare, okay? And I understand that a lot of people out there, all right, may be on a very restrictive budget, right? So use your funds wisely, all right? Even if you're on a budget, you can still prep, all right? Do not, I know it sounds pretty harsh to be saying this, but if I were on a very restricted budget as far as buying food to feed myself and my family, all right, I would definitely, knowing what I know now, knowing what I'm seeing here, okay, because most people wouldn't even take the time to watch a video like this or do their own research and go in there and take a look at it for themselves, all right? I would seriously start trying to put away those things that I know that will provide my family nutrition in the hardest of times. And those things are the basic things, all right? Your rice, your pasta, your seasonings, your beans, your legumes, all right? Your peanut butter, now that is still inexpensive, which is a very high calorie, high protein, high fat substance, all right? That will provide you pretty decent nutrition, all right? Your wheat berries, so that you can make your own bread, all right? You can make your own bread, a loaf of bread for what, 30, 40 cents. You can make your own loaf of bread, all right? Compared to paying $1.50, $2, $3 at the store for something that has less nutritional value than the bread that you can make yourself. All right. Start making those small sacrifices that you need to start making now so that you can take those pennies that you save by making those sacrifices to store up on those basic foods. All right. I guess this message isn't really intended towards people that are of means to be able to go out there and buy a 1 year supply of Mountain House or a 1 year supply of Oxen Farms or Essentials or whatever have you, all right? But this is mainly for people that are of means, that are not a lot, all right, that don't have much. Start thinking about some of the things, even though you've already cut out, start thinking about some of those other things that you can cut out of your budget that you can use for food, all right? Simple foods, all right? And ladies and gentlemen, if there's not much that you can cut from your budget, then add to your income, all right? For example, this is what I would do. If I couldn't leave the house, if I didn't have the means of being able to work, 9 to 5 because I'm hurt or for some reason like that, you know what you do? All you have to do is find one thing. Find one thing. This is what I would do. I would make my very best banana bread recipe, right? Just one thing, all right? And I would get on Craigslist and say, hey, I sell banana bread, homemade, the best you've ever had. I only do it on Sundays, or I only do it on Saturdays, whatever day of the week it is. This is how much I charge, okay? And I guarantee you there's going to be people out there that will buy it, because I see that all the time. All right. I used to, when I was back on Facebook way long time ago. All right. I'm not on Facebook personally. I only put my Facebook page up for our community. But long time ago when I was on Facebook, I used to see that all the time on basis. Stay-at-home moms would put on Facebook, hey, I'm making 6 loaves of banana bread or pound cake or this or that on this Saturday. RSVP if you'd like one. Once the 6 loaves are done, then that's it. That's all I'm making. And they would sell out every single time, right? So if you take into consideration that, and I'm using banana bread because it's just the first thing that came to mind, but it could be anything. It could be a loaf of artesian bread, like that, the one that I made, that I showed you guys that I made a while back, all right? When people look at a piece of bread like that, they're like, oh my God, that is so nice. And you made that yourself at home. And then when they taste it, they're going to buy it from you. All right. But you have to make sure that you spend 1 or 2 sessions practicing, making sure that what you're making is something that someone's going to really like. And if you really like it and your kids really like it, more than likely, everyone else will probably really like it. All right. Unless they're like a professional bakery bread maker and they wouldn't be buying bread from you anyways. All right. But I'm just throwing some ideas out there. Find something that you can do. And it doesn't have to be baking. Find something that you can do. All right. That you can find one thing that a few people in your community may like. And I'm telling you, you'll be able to make it and make a few extra dollars. I mean, to make a banana bread probably cost about, let me see, just off the top of my head, 50 cents in flour, if that, a little bit of milk. I'm going to say to make a really, really good homemade banana bread, you're looking at about $3 to make a really good one. I've seen them selling for $12, ladies and gentlemen. Right? And if you do that 3 or 4 times a week, if you sell 4 banana breads a week, or if I sell 4 banana breads a week, I'm going to be making $25, $30 profit. That's a 50-pound bag of rice, right? And it could be anything else, ladies and gentlemen. If you have a skill, if you can fix cars, if you can do brakes, you know, and you have friends that need their brakes done, whatever, just think outside the box. But if you're of low means, then just think outside the box and don't give up. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. I just want to encourage you to continue to prep. All right. If you can't afford to buy your preps online, I'd appreciate it if you use my links to support the channel. Just take a look under the description or on a pinned comment where I always leave the links that you can use to support the channel. Most of those links, if not all of them, don't cost you anything extra to use. All right. So if you're going to shop anyways, I'd appreciate it. And another reminder for any of you that use my Buy Me a Coffee link, remember that money or those monies are going to be used to donate to the Battered Women's Shelter. Okay, so the time is coming up. I'll probably wait till the end of June here before I go ahead and do that. But the time is coming up. I don't want to leave too much money in there. I think there's shy of $200 in there or something like that. But if by the end of June there isn't $200 in there, I'll go ahead and plus it up, whatever it needs to be plussed up, all right, for it to be $200, maybe a little bit more, okay, depending on what items they need, all right. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in today. I truly do appreciate it. You guys are the foundation of the channel, all right. If it wasn't for you, there'd be no channel. So I truly appreciate you guys stopping by, taking a look, and thank you very much for your support. Having said that, remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper, and I'm out.